world did not simply lose a singer on the night of May 14, 1998. It lost the very voice of the American century. In a sterile emergency room at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the quiet sobs of his family, the man who had once made teenage girls faint with a single note finally fell silent. It was the end of an era so monumental that the news sent shockwaves across the globe, a moment of collective grief that transcended generations. The man who lay there, at the age of 82, was not just a performer. He was the embodiment of a certain kind of American swagger, a rags-to-riches story wrapped in a tuxedo, a voice that could break your heart or make you feel invincible. This was Francis Albert Sinatra, known to the world as Frank, and his journey from the gritty docks of New Jersey to the summit of global fame is a story so extraordinary, so filled with triumph and tragedy, that it reads like a modern myth. To the millions who adored him, he was the chairman of the board, all blue eyes, and simply the voice. These nicknames were not mere monikers. They were titles of nobility in the kingdom of popular culture. But before he was a legend, before the Grammys and the Oscars, before the Rat Pack and the Vegas residencies, he was just a skinny kid from Hoboken with a dream as big as the Manhattan skyline across the river. He was born on December 12, 1915, in a cramped upstairs tenement at 415 Monroe Street, a world away from the glamour that would later define his life. The neighborhood was a rough-and-tumble port town, a melting pot of immigrant dreams and hardscrabble realities, and it forged in him a resilience that would serve him well. His parents were Italian immigrants who had crossed the ocean in search of a better life. His father, Antonino Martino Marty Sinatra, was a quiet, hard-working man of Sicilian descent who worked as a boilermaker and later as a firefighter, while his formidable mother, Natalina Dolly Garaventa, was a Genos-born powerhouse who worked as a nurse and became a major force in local democratic politics. It was Dolly who ruled the roost, a woman of fierce ambition and political savvy who would stop at nothing to see her son succeed. The family's financial situation was precarious, typical of immigrant families of the era, but Dolly's political connections and her husband's steady work provided a semblance of stability. Sinatra's birth itself was a battle. He weighed a staggering 13.5 pounds and was delivered with forceps in a breech birth, leaving him with permanent scars on his left cheek, neck, and ear, and a perforated eardrum. This physical imperfection, a constant reminder of a difficult beginning, would become an almost invisible part of his mystique, a minor flaw in an otherwise flawless facade. Growing up on the gritty streets of Hoboken's Little Italy, young Frank was surrounded by the sounds of the city and the vivid characters of his neighborhood. He was a solitary child, often spoiled by his mother but hungry for attention and affection. His school years were unremarkable in terms of academics. He was more interested in the world outside the classroom. He attended David E. Rue Junior High School and later Hoboken High School, but he was never a dedicated student, often skipping class to hang out with friends or listen to music. It was during these formative years that he discovered his true passion. After hearing the smooth, mellow crooning of Bing Crosby on the radio, the teenage Sinatra was mesmerized. He saw in Crosby's style a path to a world far removed from the docks of Hoboken. He bought a ukulele and began singing for spare change in local bars, developing a style that was deeply personal and emotionally resonant. The defining moment of his youth came in 1935 when he joined a local singing group called the Hoboken Four. They entered a talent competition on the popular radio program Major Bose Amateur Hour and won, securing a contract that allowed them to tour the country. This was the first glimmer of his destiny, the first step on a path that would lead him to become the most celebrated singer of his generation. The rise to fame was not instantaneous. It was a slow burn of relentless ambition and raw talent. Sinatra's big break came when he was hired as the vocalist for trumpeter Harry James's band in 1939, cutting his first record and beginning to make a name for himself. But it was his subsequent move to the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra that truly catapulted him into the stratosphere. Joining Dorsey in 1940, Sinatra learned the art of breath control and phrasing from the master trombonist, developing the ability to hold a note for what seemed like an eternity. His recordings with Dorsey, such as I'll Never Smile Again, became massive hits, and Sinatra's voice, a perfect blend of vulnerability and masculine strength, began to captivate the nation. In 1942, he launched his solo career, signing with Columbia Records, and what followed was nothing short of a cultural phenomenon. He became the idol of the Bobby-soxers, screaming teenage girls who mobbed him wherever he went, a frenzy of adoration that predated Beatlemania by 2 decades. This was the era of Sinatramania, a time when his voice seemed to speak directly to the hopes and dreams of a generation coming of age during World War II. Between 1943 and 1946, he charted a slew of hit singles, earning him the nicknames the Sultan of Swoon and The Voice. He had become the first modern pop superstar, a skinny kid from Hoboken who had conquered the world with nothing but his voice. As his musical career soared, Sinatra set his sights on Hollywood, determined to prove he was more than just a singer. His film debut came in 1943 with Higher and Higher, but it was his role as the naive, boyish sailor in the musical On the Town 1949 that showed his potential as a movie star. However, the early 1950s brought a crushing downturn. His voice suffered a hemorrhage, his contract with Columbia Records was terminated, and his marriage to his first wife, Nancy, was crumbling under the weight of his infidelities. He was, by all accounts, washed up at the age of 38. The world had seemingly moved on, but Frank Sinatra was not a man who accepted defeat. The turning point that would save his career and cement his legacy came with the 1953 film From Here to Eternity. He was so desperate for the role of the scrappy, tragic soldier Private Angelo Maggio that he begged Columbia Pictures president Harry Cohn for the part and agreed to work for scale. The gamble paid off spectacularly. His performance was raw, powerful, and heartbreaking, earning him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. The Oscar was more than just an award. It was a resurrection. Sinatra had come back from the dead, and he was more powerful than ever. This triumph was followed by a string of critically acclaimed films, including The Man with the Golden Arm 1955, for which he received a Best Actor nomination, the classic musical Guys and Dolls 1955, and the political thriller The Manchurian Candidate 1962, which is often considered his finest screen performance. At the same time, his musical career was undergoing a renaissance. He signed with Capitol Records in 1953 and, with the brilliant arrangements of Nelson Riddle, produced a series of albums that are now considered masterpieces. Albums like In the Wee Small Hours 1955 and Songs for Swingin' Lovers. 1956 showcased a mature artist who could break your heart with a ballad or make you want to dance with a swing number. He is credited with pioneering the concept album, creating collections of songs built around a single mood or theme. In 1960, he took his ambition a step further, founding his own record label, Reprise Records, giving him complete creative control over his work. His success was unparalleled. He earned 11 Grammy Awards, including the Grammy Legend Award and the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. He won a Golden Globe, an Emmy, and the prestigious Cecil B. DeMille Award. He sold an estimated 150 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. He became the definitive interpreter of the Great American Songbook, transforming standards into deeply personal anthems of love, loss, and defiance. Songs like Strangers in the Night, My Way, and New York, New York became global anthems, forever associated with his indelible style. He was no longer just a singer. He was the chairman of the board, the undisputed king of the entertainment industry. Yet, for all his public success, Sinatra's private life was a turbulent saga of passion, heartbreak, and controversy. He was married 4 times, each relationship a reflection of a different chapter in his life. His first wife was his childhood sweetheart, Nancy Barbato, whom he married in 1939. They had 3 children together, Nancy Sandra Sinatra, born in 1940, Francis Wayne Sinatra Jr., born in 1944, and Christina Tina Sinatra, born in 1948. His career's demanding nature, combined with his well-documented infidelities, including a torrid affair with actress Marilyn Maxwell, ultimately destroyed the marriage, and they divorced in 1951. His second marriage was to the tempestuous Hollywood siren Ava Gardner, a union that was as passionate as it was destructive. They married in 1951, but their relationship was a rollercoaster of explosive fights and reconciliations, fueled by alcohol and jealousy, and it ended in divorce in 1957. Despite the pain, Gardner remained one of the great loves of his life, a woman he never truly got over. His third marriage was to the young actress Mia Farrow in 1966. The union, a staggering 30-year age gap, was a tabloid sensation, but it lasted only 2 years. His final marriage was to Barbara Marx in 1976, a relationship that provided him with stability in his later years. Beyond his wives, Sinatra was surrounded by a close-knit group of friends known as the Rat Pack, which included Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford. This legendary group of entertainers became synonymous with the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas, their performances a mixture of boozy humor, effortless cool, and undeniable talent. He was also a man of fierce loyalty and deep-seated grudges, known to champion the underdog while cutting off friends and associates for perceived slights. At the height of his fame, Sinatra lived a life of almost unimaginable luxury. He owned a sprawling estate in Palm Springs, a magnificent beach house in Malibu, and a grand home in Beverly Hills. He was a connoisseur of fine things, with a particular passion for luxury automobiles, owning a fleet that included a 1970 Lamborghini Miura P400S, one of the fastest cars of its era. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at a staggering $200 million, an empire built on record sales, blockbuster films, and shrewd business ventures, including his ownership of Reprise Records. He dressed impeccably, favoring tailored suits and fedoras, and his style became as iconic as his voice. He spent his free time in the company of presidents and movie stars, playing golf, hosting lavish parties, and holding court at his favorite restaurants. He was a man who lived by his own rules, a lifestyle that was the envy of the world but one that also took a severe toll on his health. The darker chapters of Sinatra's life were as legendary as his successes. His associations with organized crime were a persistent source of controversy and FBI scrutiny. Growing up in Hoboken, his parents ran a tavern during Prohibition, and he was surrounded by mob figures from a young age. He was known to be friendly with notorious mob bosses like Sam Giancana, and his name appears frequently in FBI files. While the extent of his involvement was never proven, and he maintained it was simply part of being an entertainer who worked in nightclubs, these connections damaged his reputation and even cost him a potential political endorsement from the Kennedy family. He was also known for his fiery temper, often getting into physical altercations with reporters and photographers. Politically, he was a complex figure, a passionate Democrat and supporter of Franklin D. Roosevelt in his early career. He later became a staunch Republican, reflecting the changing political tides of the country. Despite his controversies, he remained a beloved figure, his flaws somehow adding to his mystique and making him more human. He was a man who had clawed his way to the top, and he was not about to let anyone forget it. As the years wore on, the relentless pace of his lifestyle began to catch up with him. In his final years, Sinatra's health declined dramatically. He had suffered a heart attack in January 1997 and had not been seen in public since. The man who had once commanded the stage with effortless swagger was now a frail figure, battling coronary heart disease, kidney disease, bladder cancer, and dementia. He frequently forgot the lyrics to songs he had been singing for 50 years, relying on giant teleprompters during his rare performances. His final public performance took place in Palm Desert on February 25, 1995. In the months leading up to his death, he was mostly confined to his Beverly Hills home, surrounded by his family and his memories. The world watched with a mixture of sadness and reverence as the legend faded, a poignant reminder of the relentless march of time. The end came on the evening of Thursday, May 14, 1998. In his bedroom in his Beverly Hills mansion, under a crucifix draped with rosary beads, Sinatra suffered a massive heart attack. He was rushed by ambulance to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, the driver running red lights in a desperate race against time. But it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 10:50 p.m. in the emergency room. His fourth wife, Barbara, his son, Frank Jr., and his daughters, Nancy and Tina, were at his side. The news of his death broke like a wave across the world, a global moment of mourning for a man whose voice had been the soundtrack to so many lives. The tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, from presidents and prime ministers to the millions of ordinary people who had grown up with his music. His funeral was held 6 days later on May 20th, 1998, at the Roman Catholic Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills. It was a private ceremony, but the mourners were a who's who of Hollywood royalty, including Kirk Douglas and Gregory Peck, who delivered eulogies, and Tony Bennett and Sidney Poitier, who served as honorary pallbearers. Thousands of fans lined the streets outside, a silent, tearful testament to his enduring legacy. The service was a fitting tribute to a show business legend, a final, dignified farewell to the man who had given so much to the world. He was laid to rest at Desert Memorial Park in Cathedral City, California, in a modest grave that belied the enormity of his life. Today, Frank Sinatra's legacy is more powerful than ever. He changed the very fabric of popular music, elevating the American songbook to an art form and setting a standard for vocal interpretation that few have ever matched. He was a pioneer, a crossover artist who dominated both music and film, a power player who started his own record label and production company. He was the first modern pop superstar, a template for every singer and entertainer who followed. His influence can be heard in the voices of countless artists, from rock icons like Bob Dylan, who said Sinatra sang without a mask, to the pop stars of today. He was a man of immense contradictions, a compassionate civil rights advocate who was also friends with mobsters, a devoted father who was a notoriously unfaithful husband, a singer who brought people to tears with his vulnerability and yet projected an image of unassailable toughness. But perhaps that is the secret to his enduring appeal. In his music, he captured the full spectrum of human emotion, the joy, the pain, the triumph, and the heartbreak. He sang for the lonely, the hopeful, and the broken-hearted, and in doing so, he became a part of all of us. His story, a tale of a scrappy kid from the wrong side of the tracks who rose to become the chairman of the board, is a testament to the power of talent, ambition, and an unshakable belief in oneself. He lived his life his way, and in the end, he left behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. His voice may have fallen silent, but the echoes of his genius will resonate for generations to come, a timeless reminder of a man who truly was, and always will be, the voice of a century. Thank you for watching this story of Frank Sinatra on Before Die. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of a legend, please show your support by liking this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Before Die channel for more untold stories of the celebrities who shaped our world. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What is your favorite Frank Sinatra song or movie memory? And make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. Your engagement helps us bring you more of these premium documentary stories.